Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in. Today I'm putting together a hand-tied cascading bouquet. I'm using hydrangea, yellow roses, orange carnations. I have some calla lilies, some spiral eucalyptus, and some larkspur. I'm just using bright colors as opposed to the monochromatic bouquets I typically do in the cascading style. And this bouquet will actually be for sale at OrlandoRose.shop. If you're interested, feel free to pop on by. I'll put a link in the descriptions as well, just to make it easier. But I'm using the bright colors here as kind of a nod to my own wedding bouquet. So I had a cascading bouquet for my wedding, but I just love color. So it was every color of the rainbow. It was bright colored bouquet. I had the oranges, the yellows. I even had some deep red, deep purple, some bright green in there. I didn't want to scare anybody and go that dramatic with this bouquet, so I'm just sticking to the bright oranges and bright yellows. And then, of course, I have the cream colors there. A little bit of blue, and then I'll have that purple and the lavender there. And with a hot, excuse me, hand-tied bouquet, a hand-tied is just blossom at the top and an exposed stem. So I'm not cutting it down into smaller pieces at all. It's all going to be gathered as one using all the stems. So it's kind of the roundabout definition of a hand-tied. On the flip side, you can use a floral cage. And you can use a floral cage for fresh flowers with the wet floral oasis foam in it, or you can just use it for dry with the styrofoam tucked into the cage there. And typically with a cascading bouquet, it's a bit easier to use the cage versus the hand tied. And here's why. With the hand tied, trying to get those stems to go at that downward angle is kind of hard, especially with fresh flowers. With silk, I can just give them a little bend. But to get that perfect spiraling stem on the actual stem of the bouquet, you had to gather so many flowers, and it's hard to keep everything in place. So by using the hydrangeas, it kind of works as almost like an armature, or almost like a cage itself, holding the flowers in place, with the exception of the calla lilies. And I just wanted to scream because I couldn't get the calla lilies to stay in the direction I wanted them to. But for most part, all the flowers stayed where they're at easily. I could get that spiral on the stems, and it made it nice and simple with the hydrangeas. If you're doing this in fresh flowers, you can do the hydrangea trick as well. But I would almost use a silk hydrangea mixed with the fresh flowers, just because hydrangeas go down so fast. They wilt really, really fast. So if they're out of water for a number of hours, you're going to see that wilting in the bouquet. Just a side note. So with these bright colors, the yellows, the oranges, and even the off-white, you kind of have a fight of, what's going to be the focal point. So instead of doing like big color blocking and trying to decide who's going to be higher and lower, the yellow or the orange, what I did was I took those calla lilies and I turned two of them into each other. So their noses were like facing each other. And it's that back and forth flow that will keep your eye focal in the center for the focal point. So by doing that, that creates my focal point. And I don't have to worry about, is the orange going to be the focal? Is the yellow going to be the focal? It's going to be the direction of the flowers that determine that. So I went ahead and dispersed my flowers kind of evenly. The blue is so subtle. I just kept it more towards the back. I have a little bit in the center there, but I wasn't too worried about getting that color to stand out. It wasn't one of my main ones. And by working the lavender throughout there, it gave a little bit of that blue tone throughout the bouquet as well. I do like to make sure that the back of the bouquet is just as pretty as the front, so I add quite a few flowers into the back as well. I work my spiral eucalyptus around the edge. It was a special kind of like draping spiral eucalyptus, so I kept it more towards the front and around the edge there, because I really like the motion that it gives and the movement that it gives to the bouquet. Makes the bouquet almost look real. And then along with that, I will take the hydrangea leaves. I can't remember if I mentioned that I keep all my hydrangea leaves and I'll wire them, and then I use them at the base of my bouquet because it will hide the mechanics. So it's just kind of a nice trick to hang on to all those leaves. I have bags and bags of hydrangeas and rose leaves and just all different flower leaves that I like to keep for not only the back of the bouquets, but you can also use the rose leaves for corsages and boutonnieres. Even if you're doing like a little nosegay or flower girl bouquet, you can use the rose leaves on that as well. But once I have everything semi in place, with the exception of that darn calla lily, I will tie it off with a chenille stem, and then I'll do quite a bit of fluffing just to make sure it's perfect. And then I lock everything in with hot glue. If you were doing fresh flowers, they do have a floral spray that will lock everything in for fresh, so you can use that as well. But we made it to the end, a hand-tied cascading bouquet. Thank you so much for watching.